EA Interviews, Episode 12.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the Imperfect Action Round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
What's shaking, Expert Authority world? I've got one question for you. Would you like a new car? But would you still like that new car if you had a bad experience buying it? Do you not like dealing with salesmen? Do you not like dealing with dealerships? Do you not like feeling like you're not in control of the situation and they're just going to take you for a ride? Well, how would you like to never get taken for a ride again? I know I would, because when I was getting my dream car, I was excited about the car. It was been on my vision board for a couple of years. I set out to get it. I was getting it, and the person made me feel bad. And they said the wrong thing. I wanted a moonroof. It was non-negotiable. And she says, "Who buys moonroofs anymore?" Well, I don't really care if anyone does or doesn't. It's what I want, and that's what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? It's a personal experience, so why would you take that away from someone? I'm excited to share all of this with you and more, because I have none other than CEO of Car Leasing Concierge and #1 international best-selling author, Paul Maloney, on today's episode. And I'm going to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. So you want to go live on Facebook, but you're not sure where to start or what to do. Some people say just grab your phone or buy all this expensive software. Well, I have a better option for you. Check out MarioFuccini.com/BeLive. BeLive is the simplest and easiest way to go live on your Facebook with a professional production. Once again, MarioFuccini.com/BeLive. Here he is, everyone, Mr. Paul Maloney from Car Leasing Concierge. Paul, great to have you here.
Hey, mate, how are you? Good to see you.
I am feeling fantastic. I've been excited to have you on the show for a minute here, so let's just jump right into it. What was your inspiration for starting your company to help people save when they're buying a new car?
Wow, that's a big question. That's like 20-something odd years ago. No, I'm just kidding. I was in the auto industry for a long, long time with customers, just regular sales and everything else, but when you switch over to fleet, you don't deal with the regular public anymore. So when the internet got going and everything else like that, they're buying cars off the internet the wrong way from, falsified. You see these things online going saying, put your name and your number. Next minute, the dealer calls you. So I was like, that's not the way to buy a car. So being in the fleet in the business for so long, I had like 20 years plus of customers. So they always followed me for what I did. So they always got the drill on how the way to go around going to the car dealership was. So now I tried to get it out there with the regular public. I'm trying to say that too fast, too quick. It's been a long day. So you try to get that out there and educate people in the right way, because 95% of them buy them in the wrong way. So I try to pass on what I've known for 25 years and give it to the public, because nobody's ever really educated in the right way.
Well, it's great that you wanted to do that. What got you into the car dealership business to begin with, before you transitioned to your own company? And I'm glad you did, but what got you started in it initially?
That's a good question. It was a long bartending night in Manhattan, as a matter of fact. And one of the friends I was bartending with, he sold cars during the day. And I had 2 bartender jobs, and I was just like the movie Cocktail. You're going from one to the other, and just like, it was ridiculous. I was like, there's no life in this. So he says to me, listen, you're great with people. I sell cars during the day. Why don't you come and help me? And I said, car salespeople? I said, I hate freaking car salespeople. I said, rather shoot me. I said, no way in the world. And I looked and I thought, no, I still haven't had enough to drink yet. It's going to be a few more beers to convince me. Anyway, he convinced me. I got into the business, and I just learned from the right way of sales, not the wrong way of sales, and went through dealing with more companies more than the regular public. So, it was a nice thing, because you're dealing on a different level. You're dealing with business as a whole, because they're wanting to create business. You're trying to create business with them, because there's not just a single individual, but a whole company and network. So that's how I built my business out at the same time. So when they come to me, I just don't want to know what they do for what sort of vehicle they want. I want to know what they do also for a living, because that way then I can use my network to introduce them to them, and it expands out for everybody. So it's a good, nice round robin network for everybody, gets a slice of the pie.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a win-win for everyone. So when you're looking for people to help, I know you get a lot of people that come to you. Who would you say is your ideal person that can benefit from your services?
Just about anybody that's looking to purchase or lease a new vehicle. I mean, they can only get so much information on the internet. They can tell you, like you'll see on Facebook and whatever, like, here, buy my product. It's like $3.99. Walk into my club. How these exotic cars, and it's all BS. It's just like when you go to a car dealership, it doesn't matter how much homework you do. It's when you go in there, they flip you, because you are any decision that we make is not done by logic. It's all done by emotion. So when we actually go in and we purchase something, whatever the numbers were, we just forgot about them because it just went right out the window, because it's a car salesperson's job is to get you and play on your emotions. So they get you drunk in emotion, keep intoxicating you with the numbers, so you don't know exactly what you ended up paying for something until the next day. You wake up in a somewhat more sobering state in your mind and go like, how did I just end up in the corner of Buyers Remorse Boulevard and Sucker Street? So you really have to slow clients down and just say, look, I know what you did. I know where you want to go. I'm the same. I'm no different when I purchase something, but you have to take the emotion out of the equation. So I say, look, I'll be a designated driver to steer you clear of the potholes.
Oh, that's clever.
That they're going to try and put you in. But I have to give people a visual, because if you don't give a person a visual when you're describing something, they're not going to understand it. So I try to say to people, the best understand what I do is like, look, you can come through me. It's like going to get your taxes done. You spend a little with your accountant to save a lot, and it's done with. But if you go to a car dealership, it doesn't matter what you look online or wherever. There's no place in the world, unless you're an authorized dealer, broker, concierge, or wholesaler, that you have access to all the manufacturing programs, incentive monies, and also the programs the software that you use to create the deal. It doesn't exist. So when you see these small payments on, excuse me for 1 second, if you see these ads on TV for $1.99 or whatever, it's great, because we're already drunk on the emotion of going there. We've seen it. But then it's an upsell from there. It's like going out to the pub with your mate and saying, listen, mate, we're only going to go out and have 1 or 2 beers. Like, yeah, right. So, it's 2 o'clock in the morning comes around, you're drunk, like on emotions, you're having a great time, you spend a load of money, and you wake up the next day and go like, crikeys, mate, what happened? What hit me? Well, a salesman hit you right in the bloody wallet. That's what happened. And that's how people... You're
telling me it's not a good idea if someone's going out to get a SUV or a minivan for their family and they come back with a Ferrari?
Well, it doesn't hold them against them, but no, listen, I always say to people, like, look, always walk away before you purchase something. And it's the second biggest purchase of your life. And why is it that 95% of people don't check with a professional before they go and purchase something? Because they simply can't. And it's not set up as a program for anybody to do that. So that's why I stepped outside of it and said, listen, let me create this, because nobody's done this. So it's easy for me to say, look, I call them kangaroo car shoppers, because they just hop from one dealership to the other, and they spend obscene amount of money on gas, their headache. The husband wants to kill the wife and vice versa. And, it gets crazy. So I said, look, if that's going to be the case, here, why don't you spend the extra $19 or whatever, I have it on Amazon. I said, here, take this with you, use it while you're there, and take advantage of what you're given, the tools of the trade. Because if you don't follow suit and somebody's trained you to tell you and show you how to do something, doesn't matter what it is, you are always going to be at a disadvantage. So I try to calm people down and say, listen, I know where you're at. I know, because I've been there with what I purchase. But at the same time, you just got to say, look, I'll take care of the logical side of it. You stay with your emotions there, but let me take care of the logical side of it. And because before you know it, if hundreds of, you don't have a car payment, you end up with a freaking mortgage payment. It gets crazy quick.
When you don't look at the numbers and the interest and how it compounds and everything you're talking about, right?
Yeah. The number one biggest thing, Mario, is that it's the salesperson's job is to get you off the selling price of the vehicle and show you payments. You're not going to see like, oh, by the way, Bob, the selling price based off what we negotiated is this, because it doesn't add up that way. So your $300 a payment, your $300 a month payment, you don't know what that selling price is based off of, because there's no way for you to check. So you end up now going like, well, hang on, it's on a car payment, it's on the contract or whatever. And you don't see it until I had a contract I was going to show you tonight, but I don't think it'd show up too well on the screen. You're not going to be able to know exactly what you're selling for that, what you're actually purchasing for that vehicle, until you see it actually on the contract that's, like 2.5 feet long. And the last thing the business manager wants to show you is what you're actually paying for the price. It's like, here, sign here, we'll get you out in the way, and away you go. But, you got to be able to check your numbers. It's like buying a house. You're not going to go and just say, that's a great bloody house, so I'm going to buy it and it's full of termites. You hire a professional to come in and say, look, it needs this, it needs this, before you go and purchase it, weigh up the odds. And that's all I do. I just pass on with what I've known and give through fleet industries all my life, through the auto industry of my life, and just educate them and move it on, because the customers hate the buyers and the buyers hate the customers, and it's always going to be a clash of who said this, who said that. But getting back to the emotional side, your numbers will go right out the window as soon as you walk in the dealership, because a good salesman, which is hardly any of them left anymore because they got out of the industry while this internet stuff was starting to grow, and they would qualify you in 60 seconds or less without you even knowing it, by being nice to you but asking the right questions. And
so
that's
when they qualify you, you might be at a good rate or a bad rate.
Well,
you're not going to know that.
You won't know that, because I want to know what's inside your head. Hey, Bob, I know that I see where you're coming from. The number one thing a good car salesperson used to be is when somebody pulls up, the first thing that they look at, and all the salespeople out there, they'll know and agree, is that you look at the license plate and you see what the license plate cover says. It might be, Acme Motors from so-and-so, Newark, New Jersey. So there's a pretty good chance that's where they bought the vehicle from, or they get it serviced, or they live in that immediate area. So we're already checking that out first before you even get out of the vehicle. So you're always going to be at a disadvantage. In the book that I wrote here, I didn't know it actually wrote itself by mistake, because people weren't getting what it was doing, so how our system worked. So I said, let me put it in black and white, and I'll make it an ebook so you can download it, so you can actually use it on your phone. It's like a calculator. From the moment you walk in, how to control the salesperson is because they're going to play on power words no matter what. So this offsets them and says, okay, fine. I've got all the tools of the trade. I know what they're going to ask me. All I have to do is follow this. If I can follow this, I'm home free. It's when the ego and the narcissist side comes out of people and they think, oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing. That's when you get, you get sidetracked. You go down a detoured road. Before you know it, you're like, how did I end up here? And you're lost. And then that's when it goes south for you,
But with everything in there and how you've helped people, who would you say is your biggest client success story?
The people that listen, because unfortunately for people, they've only been taught one way, whether it's back home in Australia or over here or everywhere else in the world. The car salesman, it's a stereo. It's a skeptical thing that we have to be aware of. So our guard is always going to be up. So once you know that the person's guard is up, it's very hard to break it down. So the only way you're going to be able to get to that is by the emotional side of them. So then that starts to come down, and then you say to people like, look, here's what's going to happen to you, but be prepared for it. It's like the hooker standing out in the corner, and you're driving by like a pretty woman, changing the gears. Can you give me some directions? Yeah, sure, honey. Hi, hop in. Next minute, it costs him everything it is, but you don't know. So, you got to be very careful with what you're doing and slow the process down. That's the whole thing about it, because 90% of people at a car dealership will want to send you home the same day, because if you go shopping somewhere else and they let you out, they know that number can be beat somewhere else. So you have to, and you've only really got one shot at doing it. It's not just much in car sales, but it's any sales. If you own a furniture store, you really want to, have that sale because that's what you live upon. But the dirty tricks that go with it and the misleading is the downside of things. So, that's why I try to like slow people down and say, look, before you sign, get it checked out, and I've created that for people.
So let's jump into your book, and let me ask you, how has your book helped your business? And then I'm going to ask you some of the power words. How has your book helped your business?
The book's helped my business tremendously because it tells it for what it actually is. It pulls back the curtain and exposes the magician's trick on how it's all exposed and how it's done. So it's once you know how it's done, you go, I knew it was done somehow by wires or, something like that. But it's written in from my side of the fence, and it said, like, listen, here's how it is. Here's what's going to happen to you, not 90% of the time, but 100% of the time. So in order for you to offset and be ready for that, here's what you do, and just follow the simple instructions on that. And like I said, people can use it on their iPhone, because the last thing, people will give you when you're at a dealership is all the numbers. You'll see them, you wait for the salesperson. Oh, can I get a copy of that? They're like, no, hell no, you can't do it. If I give you that, you're gone, So with the book here, with the download, you can actually ask the questions on your phone, and just put them in like on a calculator. And you are asking the questions, and you put in the answers. You don't even tell him to leave his pen in his pocket, okay? Because it's full of disappearing ink anyway. So so all you can do is you can control the whole situation from the palm of your hand. So I empower them with the tool, so their wallet doesn't get taken for a test drive.
So let's talk about that. I know there's a lot of power words in there. Let's just give the viewers one or two of them, maybe three.
Which ones? Oh, that's you got me right off the top of my head there.
You got the book right there. I know you have it there.
Yeah, I know, but I'll be looking through it, and it'll be nighttime by the time I end up finish reading it. The most powerful things I can say in there is that don't get drunk on emotion, because that's the main key words that are in there, is to not have that happen to you. Because you don't wake up one day and you just logically say, oh, I'm going to buy a freaking car today. No, it's because you woke up in an emotion, and that emotion made you trigger what you're going to do. The uncertainty is by when you go, then you don't know what to do, how to handle it. But your emotional side is going like, hey, we're feeling pretty good. It's 2:00 in the morning. We're having the beers. Let's do a couple of shots and really up the ante, and you don't feel the pain. And you'll then end up signing something that you never wanted to in the first place, and you've been yes to everything because the business manager, the pimp daddy of the car dealership, he's going to take your money out of your wallet without you even knowing it. So he's going to get you to nod with all the body language, and it's all created upon that. So emotional drowning cost people more than anything else. They end up drowning in payments.
And no one wants that.
No, that's why it's a psychological thing. It really is. And I've made it so self-explanatory for people that it'll change the way you'll buy a car. You can read this and go like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And it does, because numbers don't lie, but salespeople will. So this keeps them right on track of where you can't go wrong. You can only go wrong if you deviate from what it is. And I say to people, I said, look, if you use our service and we made a mistake somewhere, I'll give them their money back. That's not a big deal. But I will walk somebody through and say, let's back up for a second and see where you went wrong and how you went wrong. And did you not sign anything like I told you not to? And, for the most part, most people don't, because they've called me and they've said, Paul, something didn't feel right. And I said, great. It did. The book did its job. And I'll give you a quick example. There's a young girl I had crying on the phone one day profusely. And I was like, I thought she was looking for one of these, crisis numbers. And she said something about cars. She goes, leasing. I said, no, this is Car Leasing Concierge, the car buyer's advocate. How can I help you? She goes, oh, no, I got the right person. You're Paul, right? I said, yes. I said, I'm the only Aussie here. And so she says, I went to a car dealership. She goes, they hit up on me the wrong ways. Like, I felt verbally violated, as well as like thinking that I'm an idiot as a woman going in there. She says, I really wanted to buy this BMW. And I said, okay. I said, look, did you drive the vehicle? She goes, no. I said, great. I said, look, my book is just about to come out. I haven't launched it yet. I says, but this is a perfect thing for you to go and use. And I said, part of it is in there is about, how women go and purchase the vehicles, and they're the 80% of them make the final decisions. So I said, go and use this. So she goes, okay. So I sent her the ebook. 3 days later, she calls me up, completely different person, like she won the freaking lottery. And I said, is this Lisa? She goes, yeah. She goes like, Paul, you're not going to believe what happened. I said, oh God, now what did I do? So she ended up telling me, she says, Paul, soon as I used what you had in the book, she goes, and just read it, which is logical first. She says, I read it first to understand it, and then I used it. She goes, like, you should have seen the look on their faces. She says, they couldn't believe. They said, you must know somebody in the business. Or did you work in the business? Because nobody really knows how to ask for all this and put us in a corner where we have to answer the question. And, even the sales managers come over and ask me all that stuff. She goes like, but I got all the numbers. I filled it all in. I said, great, love. So send it over to me and we'll see what happened. So we looked at the deal and we saw, and I showed her how much more it was costing her and everything else. And then I said, look, if you can use our fleet price and pay our service of the $200 or $300, whichever we have on special sometimes. And I said, look, you can use our service. I said, we'll not only cover the cost of the service, but we'll beat it by X amount of dollars on top of that. So our service really ends up costing them nothing, and they don't have to go back to the dealership. So we ended up doing that and delivering the vehicle. But the key thing was, though, Mara, is when I looked at the application and I saw what she did for a living. She was in law enforcement. And I was like, hang on a second. How does a cop feel intimidated crying on the phone and saying, I can't deal with this? So I had to ask her. I've never come across something like that. I'm not going to go through the rest of my life going, hang on, how did that happen? So I said, Lisa, I've used her different name because she can't use her name because of, law enforcement. So I said, Lisa, what happened? So she goes, like, Paul, she's like, I have a phobia about going out and buying things and dealing with people one-on-one. I said, but, you're in law enforcement. She goes, that's different. She goes, that's my job at my job. She says, I can deal with that. But she says, when I take off that uniform, I'm just like somebody else. She says, I wanted to prove to myself that I could actually do that. So she says, yeah. So she said, you know what? She says, thank you for doing that. I said, look, I haven't even had it out yet. And I said, even if I just sold it to you and I sold none others, the book done its job. So I was more than happy. And it was just like, it was done because it was done from the empathetic side of people when they want to purchase something and understanding their needs. So she was smart enough to slow that down and go through the process. And she goes, she says, I've not only felt smart, but she goes, I just feel like a whole new different person inside because I applied that way of thinking and words to how other people are when I'm just in general. So I said, yeah, I learn things every day from everybody, so it did its job in that sort of way. So that makes it easy for people to understand. So with this new podcast coming up, I'm going to be wanting to do a question and answer, a Q&A, I should say, from customers that have had bad experiences so they can come on the show and they can say, Paul, this is what happened at the dealership. And we can then expose that to the world so other people can relate to and go, like, you know what, that happened to me. And I'll give the answers as best I possibly can to help you so that doesn't happen. So it's going to be able to get something off your chest, and hopefully it's not too late before you sign something. And at the second time, it's going to, empower you. So when you do go in somewhere, you're going to feel like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get screwed anymore. And these are great questions. And, that's what it's going to be about. We're going to have some different people on. We're going to have sales managers on that I've worked with over the 20 years. I'm going to have finance managers on. And I'm going to give them the exact questions that everybody wants to know. And they're going to tell it. And I've already made it from them. It's one-on-one. I said, and there's no bullshit. I said, you don't have to show your face. I said, because I know you're still in the business. But I just want to have a conversation back and forth, and the audience can listen in and say, wow, that's how it really does happen, huh? And that's the way we're going to, air the show that way. So people now are going to go like, wow, that really does happen. So if it shocks them, it makes them more alive and go like, crikeys, when I do go in there are real sharks in there. So, I want to, look around before I go
awareness of what's really going on that they might not be considering.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a huge value add. So let me ask you one last question before we go to the lightning round and thank our sponsor. What would you say is the most you've ever been able to save someone? And I know it depends if you have an entry-level car, mid-range, or a high exotic, but what's the most you've ever been able to save for someone?
The highest is more of the high-end vehicles, like your higher-end Mercedes, your Ferraris, your Bentleys and everything else, because some of those vehicles, there's like $50,000 in markup in some of those vehicles. So, but depends on, through fleet, it's like goes on how many you sell to how much program money you can use. And sometimes I tell some people, I said, look, your payment's going to be X amount of dollars and what your best quote was, but I don't run the contract through until the day that they're actually going to sign, because their payment may go down like $20 or $30 a month. And that's happened to a couple of my customers. I said, look, your payment's right around here. I won't know but it's not going to be any worse than where it is. And we're already better than the price you got anyway. So you're covered all to the good. So there's nothing to worry about, anything to gain. And I had
safe to say you can usually save at least 5 to 15%, around 10 on average.
It depends on the vehicle. I mean, if somebody, they've already shopped their payment, so it's a different, how much can we save them more on their payment from the selling price of the car? It could be a couple of $1,000s, so we could end up saving them anywhere from $10 to $40, $50 a month less on their monthly payments, just by the term. So it's always like another easily $700 minimum going upwards. So they're paid for my service. They're still going to be to the good another $300 or $400, and you're having a professional do it.
That's all the low end, like you're talking about. I know we've talked before, and you were telling me some of the stuff, and it's pretty awesome. I wish I knew about you when I was getting my first car, and Look, because like you're talking about, you go there and it's like you want to go there empowered. You don't want to go there going, what's going to happen, this, that, the other thing. So we'll talk more about that in a second. I'm going to thank the sponsor, and I'm going to come back to the lightning round. Instead of trying to get your prospects' attention, why not be so captivating they can't look away? That's a quote from my first book, Video Marketing for Business Owners, and I'm saying it again today. Because the truth of the matter is, if you can't get your prospects' attention, they're not going to pay attention to you, and they're not going to receive your message, and you'll never be able to help them. That's why I love BeLive. Before it even launched, I was using it in the beta phase, and it is the simplest and easiest way to do Facebook Lives, to reach your audience, to interact with them. You can queue the comments up, you can take questions, you can answer them live, there's live polling features, you can make a professional-looking production very inexpensively and very quickly, which is important because you don't want to be spending your time messing around with computers and hardware and all this other stuff. Live streaming can get very intense, and there's literally nothing else I would recommend to start off with that is simpler, easier, and more affordable than BeLive. So check out MarioFacchini.com/BeLive. Once again, that's MarioFacchini.com/BeLive. All right, Expert Authority Nation, we're back with Paul, and we're going to jump into the lightning round and where you can take imperfect action. First question, what is the fastest path to the cash? If someone's buying a car from you in 60 seconds or less, what is the best thing they can do? If they're buying a car in general, what's the best thing they can do to save the most amount of money the fastest?
Who, the buyer?
Yes.
Walking in with cash? Well, first off, you wouldn't want to go buy a new car for cash anyway. You'd be pretty stupid. Second of all, when you go in there, the first thing you're not going to do is say, like, listen, I'm in here to buy this car like you're a crackhead going in. I need this right now, because you'll just get laid away. So you never rush into anything that you're going to be doing. Now, whether you're leasing it, you're paying cash for it, or you're financing it, it's just, there's only one rule. There's only one path. Numbers don't lie. So, 2 and 2 doesn't add up to 5. The car sales will never, ever change because they don't have to. You can't drive a vehicle on the internet. You have to go in the dealership. So as soon as you walk through the door, it's like walking into your neighbor's place. They're going to watch everything that you do. But meanwhile, you're in the house going like, oh, gee, mate, that's a nice painting you got on the wall. That's a nice bar. When did you get that? Meanwhile, they're looking at your shoes, what you're dressed in, where you're going to hang your coat, and you have no clue. So it comes back to keeping in line with what you purchase. And you can use it with my book here, but you can also use it for anything else that you want to purchase in life. Just slow that down or ask for advice for something. I remember when I was starting to set this up and I had no clue how to set the podcast up and everything else, and you were kind enough to take the time out. And I said, you know what, Mario? I said, hang on a second. I said, how does it feel, I said, if I came to you and I started telling you everything about, hey, Mario, I'm buying this, but what do you think? And you said, Paul, I told you don't buy that microphone because this one over here is. I said, I wouldn't dream if I went somewhere to insult somebody else's intelligence if I'm going to ask a professional. I think people just become overwhelmed that they want to believe, they want to hear things. So I say, look, slow that down. Otherwise they just become assholes. They'll ask you 1,000 questions, you'll give them all the advice, and they'll do the complete opposite. And then they'll come back and blame you. Oh, Mario, you didn't listen to me. So it's like, listen to what the person is going to give you with advice and use it. I mean, they're not going to give you wrong advice. I mean, if somebody gives you wrong advice, they're going to be out of business. So is it worth a professionals give you bad advice? I mean, what justice are going to do, to give you a couple of $100 so they can go out of business? I mean, no, just close the doors. You don't need the money if you're that bad up. So, but listen and be open enough and not naive. I mean, naiveness can work for you and it can work against you because there's no bad habits. Or some people are naive enough, they'll fall into anything and listen to anything. So it's like having your own mentor. It's like having your own lawyer when you go to court. You're not going to go to court without a lawyer. It's the same thing. Let him represent you. Pay the couple of bucks. You're already going to save more than what it is anyway, and it's a guarantee, and it's 100% refundable on something. You can't be more transparent than that. I mean, if people think there's any other trick to it, I said the trick is, yes, go to the car dealer. I said, because that's the trick. I said you'll end up getting your money's going to end up disappearing.
Very good. So seek out your advice and professional help before purchasing the car is the fastest way they can save the most cash. That's going to go right into the second question. which is, what is the biggest mistake you see most people make before they're buying a car?
The biggest mistake, it's very easy. 95 to almost 99% of people, they don't know the selling price of the car. They don't, when they go in there, what's the discount of the vehicle? Okay, what's my monthly payments going to be all of a sudden? Meanwhile, okay, before they sign, they don't know what the actual selling price of the vehicle is. So that's why I say to people, unless you know what the selling price is, how are you going to know whether you're going to get a good deal or not? The second punch to that, the knockout punch, is there's nowhere on the internet you can go to get this stuff checked out. It just doesn't exist. That's why I created it. They can use the book, get the information, come back and get the car price check. Now you got peace of mind. It's only cost you a couple of bucks to get it checked out. You know, you're not going to drive from one dealership to another dealership for a difference of $100. So for half that price, you're getting a car price check with a full report on it, saying like, wow, now I know exactly where I'm at. So it makes you feel more less skeptical. Take away the skepticism, I should say, because now you can see everything that's up front. It's transparent, so you can go like and you then you say like, wow, I can really enjoy the vehicle now because there are no surprises. It's delivered to my door. It was up front, and great. What a great service. I'd never buy a car another way again, and I wouldn't buy a vehicle the same way again as I have done previously. And we hear that all the time, but it's just like people think it's this big, oh no, I don't know how to do it. It's not. It's really very, very, very simple, and it's growing in size. Nationwide, there's a lot more concierges that are out there, but it's the same thing with them. You have to be careful also, because through Fleet and being a broker at the same time, we would still sell to those people, but they don't follow up with their customer. They start putting money in their pocket where they don't, and they're not very upfront with the customer. So unless you know someone has been in that industry for a good length of time, you can look up their reputation, you can look up who they are, where they've been, where they've worked before, and just go on the internet and you can Google people and do the research beforehand, because if you can't find them, then they pretty much don't exist. They're like smoke and mirrors. So
last question about what is the best way for them to maximize their purchase long term? So they're looking for a car right now. Call Paul. He can help you. You help them get the car. What's the best way to maximize it for years to come?
Well, most people today lease vehicles because, I mean, it gives you a lower monthly payment than it would say if you finance it over 5 years, and then you don't own that vehicle anyway until it's like a house. You don't own it until you pay it off. You'll get a title, but it's still got a lien on it. And with a new vehicle with lease in it, like I said, you can get into it at a lesser payment with less money down. And the warranty normally covers all of them, 3 years, 36 months, which is, the normal lease rate anyway is 3 years, 12,000 miles. And then by that time, cars, they're changing them up today like there's no tomorrow. So every 3 years, they've already changed the model. People go like, oh, it's like your iPhones. They're a perfect example, except that they're done you blink, you wake up the next day and it's a bloody...
You can even lease iPhones now.
Yes, actually, I actually did that. One of my friends went to go and get an iPhone, and I said, let me just tag along. I'm not into that stuff, but I had nothing else to do. And I saw how the guy was selling the stuff, and it was the exact same way as they do in car sales. I'm like, wait a second.
Well, I said, they're almost the cost of a car now.
Right, but everything's negotiable. They're trying to bang you out a window sticker price on these Apple phones, and people have no clue, and they're just signing them like there's no tomorrow. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. They're like, next idiot, hello, come on, walk the plank. There it is, bye. So I asked the guy, I said, and I saw how they were working the deals, and I said, hang on a second. So I ended up saving my friend like so much more money on the lease term of his lease payment on his phone. I think it was like a difference like $30 a month almost. So it was like, saved him a good couple $100. But it's the same thing applies. It's no different. Like I said, it gets back to that emotional thing. But getting back to what we can say people on the cars is that for what they can get for their money, you can get into a lot more car for a lot less if you lease it. You're limited on your miles. You have to keep the vehicle, maintaining its shape and everything else. Like, they allow for little nicks, dents, and scratches, but you can buy damage waivers for like $5,000. Only cost you a couple of $100 through Fleet. What we do, if you go to the car dealership, they're going to charge you $2,000, and it's very, very inexpensive because when you take that vehicle back, you are going to have the nicks, dents, and scratches. And I always say to people, look, this is what I have on my own vehicles. And I even show them my lease contract and say, look, here, it's good for me, right? So it's no smoke and mirrors. I only offer it. I said, if you want it, it's there. If you don't, it's not. But don't come back to you and your leases over 3 years ago like, oh, shit, you should have told us. I'm like, no, you shouldn't. You should have listened. But you were too drunk on the emotional side. But in any case, you can just slow it down. You can get into a lot more vehicle these days. And like I said, everybody sees what a new car is, a new phone, and they want to keep changing out and out and out like there's no tomorrow. So I've been in the business all my life as the 20-something odd years of it, in the auto industry, I should say, and I've never purchased a brand new car. And anybody in the auto industry would do the same thing. The only person that really is going to do that, and I used to work with a finance manager, she's watching Sam, you know who I'm talking about. She would drive from, down lower Orange County all the way up, two counties up, and she's driving, almost, $200 miles a day. So people like that are not a candidate for us. You'll want to buy a new car because you're going to want to have the reliability, that longevity, because, a new vehicle, you have to pay for warranties, left, right, center. You don't know what's going to break next on it. But with new, you're absolutely going to, get the miles and this out. But I only tell people if you're going to do those amount of miles, that works for you. If you're not going to be doing all those miles, then, leasing's for you all day long, regardless of what everybody says. Look, it's skeptical. Everybody is knows, like, the what's the word I'm looking for? Not the narcissistic side, not so much the smart side of it, but people that just don't want to listen, and they just tune out and they say, no, that's not the way you buy vehicles. This is the way it is. Don't listen to them. Those are the people that end up getting screwed more than most, but they will never, ever admit it. But we all know who they are. And if anybody's listened, you know who you are. So if you want to slow it,
be like them, huh?
No, don't be, impressing your wife and going like this. And that's why, 80% of decision makers are women, because they know how to, keep a level head. They know what to look for. They look for reliability. They look for dependability, and they look for price. Where guys just look and go like, oh yeah, mate, she's a bloody nice. How many Sheilas can I pick up with this car? Even though they're married or not. So it's just like, they bring you back to the logical side of things, calm you down. But unfortunately, when the ladies go in, the downside of it is only like 30% of them feel confident when they go there, because they know the logic, they've seen it, they've done their numbers, but when they go in there, they flip it with the emotion, and the guys play on that. And now they're confused by, hang on, this is not how it's supposed to go. And then she looks at her husband, the husband looks at her, they start arguing. Before you know it, now, you're drunk at the bar with that emotion, so you're done. So the ladies seem to drink a little bit less on the emotion, where the guys drink, fall over with their legs in the air. And the women say, okay, I think we'll think about it, and we'll call you tomorrow. They're only going to call you tomorrow because they're going to go check it out somewhere else. But, or you always hear I've got to check with my wife before I sign. That was the most common thing you would hear in the auto industry. Why does she? Well, I have to check with my wife. That was always somebody's out. But unfortunately for the guys and for anybody else, it was true, because the woman is going to control, who's going to be driving the vehicle and the emotion. But when it comes time to sign, and they ask more questions, but they just don't know when going in there exactly all the right things to ask. So getting back to my book with the girl that was in law enforcement, she applied it, and it changed the way that she bought things, and as well as, I guess, part of what she does today. But it empowers you that way. So that's the best thing I can give you is arm you with the tools of the trade and the information. Give you the information that I've had over 20-something odd plus years,
Very good. Well, I appreciate you for sharing that with us. Now, I want you to mention the podcast again before we go to the sponsor, and appreciate you for coming on the show. You've shared a lot of valuable information, but tell people where they can find you and about your show.
Okay, sure. The show's going to be called Never Get Taken for a Ride Again. I can't split to a screen. I don't have it. But if you look on Facebook or go on my Car Leasing Concierge page or Paul Maloney page, it's always going to be, you'll always see the ads for it. It's coming up on next Thursday, the 13th. It's going to be at, I haven't checked the time yet. It's either going to be
Are you doing it for people that...
well, I'm going to test it out. I'm going to test it out for now, because most people, they go shopping for vehicles on a Saturday, and they go then on a Monday to purchase vehicles. So if I could put it on a Monday around lunchtime, it actually, before people go in somewhere and make the wrong decision, go like, oh, okay, we're going in, and they catch my show and listen to something, it might just slow them down a little bit and say, hey, you know what? We weren't meant to buy on the weekend. Let's listen in on Monday to see what Maloney has to say, on his podcast, Never Get Taken for a Ride Again. What's it going to hurt you? Nothing. Is that the only car left on the lot? Bullshit. So if I'm going to try different days, if that's going to work, and I'll try probably a Wednesday, or most people are, is hump day. You don't want to go to dealer on a Wednesday hump day because, they're going to ride you. You're not going to ride them. So whatever days are going to work best, it fits in people, and maybe an evening show where people can listen when they're driving home or whatever. But whatever's going to work to get some mass crowd out there, the viewers can let me know what times work for them by, putting in comments or whatever. But we're looking forward to it. It should be a pretty good time.
Never Get Taken for a Ride Again podcast. Check it out on iTunes. All right. Well, we're going to go to the sponsor. Thanks again, Paul. It was great having you here. And
no worries, mate.
We'll see you soon.
Okay. Cheers. Hurrah.
You're already successful. You've worked hard to get where you are. We both know it wasn't overnight and hasn't always been easy. No doubt you're the expert on your subject matter. But do your prospects in your marketplace think of you first as their go-to trusted advisor all the time? ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com is 100% free and reveals the 21 steps to determine if your prospects view you as the expert and authority of your marketplace, or if it's just all in your mind. Important required steps like, do you have a process in place for prospects to self-identify if they qualify for your time and expertise or not? Does your current offer have the 7 components of an irresistible offer required to make it a no-brainer for your prospects? Do you have a real-life paperback book showcasing you as the subject matter expert you can actually hand someone? Get your free checklist now at ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com. Once again, Expert Authority Checklist, to make sure you have the 21 steps covered. It better not be more, but don't leave those 1 or 2 things you may have missing go any longer. Visit ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com and make sure you're being seen as the expert and authority today. Once again, that's ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com. Get your copy now. BeLive offers entrepreneurs and small business owners around the world the opportunity to broadcast live video on your Facebook page, profile, group, or event. The platform is fully web-based. There's nothing to download. BeLive has made the dashboard super easy and intuitive to use. You can be up and running with your own TV-style talk show, interviewing guests, interacting with your community, and offering your products and services to a wider audience in 20 minutes. To learn more, go to MarioFacchini.com/BeLive. Once again, MarioFacchini.com/BeLive. Thanks for listening to the episode. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. It was a blast interviewing Paul, and he gave some great points. Let's continue the conversation over in the community, ExpertAuthorityWorld.com. We can have discussions, talk about the episodes, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Once again, ExpertAuthorityWorld.com.